There
All
we
right, we're
go.
live.
We are live, man.
You gotta share this bad boy now. It's always
Mm-hmm.
step one of the Catch Up Podcast live stream.
Exactly. We got to share what's going on.
Yeah,
Let
man.
people know.
How is everybody doing tonight? I look crazy because I just put eye drops in. Um, oh man, but my allergies, my lord, dude. I
Are they
can't.
getting you, man?
Oh my, dude, it's been getting me. So I promise I'm not crying. I haven't smoked anything. All right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the problem is, so like this is year 3 of some snuffleupagus action on the Catch Up Podcast, right?
Mm-hmm. It's always been that way, man.
Right.
Usually around this time.
Fall and spring, man. That's what it always
Mm-hmm.
is.
Those
Um,
flowers start blooming, man. They get you.
it gets me, man. So, year 3 of the snuffleupagus action, and the problem with it now is we have a live stream where you guys can see it, and I look terrible. I look like trash. So, um, yeah, man. But another Friday night live stream.
Mm.
Very excited about it.
Yeah, man. We got some real cool stuff.
We got some
We're
good
going to
stuff
talk
to talk
about.
about. You can check it out in the description. While people are jumping on, I want to go ahead and slide this way. Here we go. There's some new merch I got going. It's actually designed by our friend Devon.
Mm-hmm.
We have yet to get on this freaking live stream or podcast.
we are
Um,
going to get him on the podcast, man. We are going to get him on the podcast.
I
I
think
say 2021, man. We are going to get him on the podcast.
that's the only thing I want to accomplish this year, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, man.
I think we have
That
a
way
good
everybody
chance.
can meet him.
Huh? What'd you say?
That way everybody can meet him.
Right.
Meet the
I think
man
we have a good
behind
chance.
the legend, really.
Yeah. Like I said, I think we have a good chance because we're going to be there. I'm going to be down in Texas middle of April for our friend Sierra's wedding.
Mm-hmm.
Man, I was an idiot. I booked a gig for a band in Kansas the night before her wedding. So we're going to do that. I'm going to wake up early, probably like 6, 7 a.m., drive down to Texas, go straight to the wedding with you, my bro, not like with you,
Mm-hmm.
but like we'll be there. And then hopefully get him on. I mean, I'm gonna be down there for a few days, so we'll have another in-person catch up, hopefully featuring
Mm-hmm.
Devon, which will be really cool.
It'll be awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, it's all good stuff. A lot going on, a lot to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Denison's been going through a lot of positive things, I think.
Yes, very, very positive.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So hopefully we can talk a little bit about that. But
Mm-hmm.
for the live streamers, we wanted to let you know what we got going. We're talking about what life is like post-COVID restrictions. More and more states are jumping on it. In fact, Oklahoma just jumped on it the other day.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a little concerning for me. You're living in the middle of it, but I am not. Kansas is not going to do that. We have a Democrat governor. And in this case, I'm thankful for that because I do not want these COVID restrictions to go away.
Yeah, man. It's terrifying, to be honest.
Well, it is. And it's like we talked about, man, like we want to be able to have a good summer. And to do that, in my mind, you got to wait. You got to wait.
Mm-hmm.
And all this is too much too fast. Granted, we do have almost 20% of the state inoculated, which is a very big word to say. Give it a shot. We have about 20% of the state
inoculated. Now is that full inoculation?
Full, it's actually partial inoculation.
Okay. Because I know, in Texas they were banging the drum saying like, see, we're we've got like 5 million people vaccinated. But it was partial.
I was changing the description of our episode to say featuring snuffleupagus action. So yeah, we want to talk about that. We want to talk about kind of a admission that I have. I actually feel very guilty about it, and will make my entire argument on the opening of Texas sound very hypocritical. and possibly get me sued. So that's cool. And then Denison, you're gonna have to explain this one better than I, but it basically do it yourself maintenance on your car, right? In Sacramento, correct?
Yes. Yes.
It's outlawed.
Yes. So it'll be interesting, really, really, really interesting there. I also wanted to, and of course, this isn't like a super big thing, but I also kind of wanted to talk about this isn't fully related to the DIY, but I wanted to talk about Netflix implementing a new non-sharing feature, I should say,
Yes,
or
you can't share
test
your
feature.
user.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that'll be really, really interesting. And I think it kind of hits home to a lot of people, especially for people in our generation, right? Because our generation is like the generation of cord cutting. So,
man, good
so
thing
it's
I
a
still have
really
my
interesting.
ex's login. And she knows it too. Oh man, I got asked many months ago, but it was like shortly after this breakup. She was like, "Did you watch?" It was some weird show. I was like, something I would never watch. I was like, kind of surprised I was even getting asked. She's like, "I'm trying to figure out who put this on my account." I was like, "Hell no, man!" But she knows it's funny, and she still didn't change her login. So I'm like, "Hey, whatever. I ain't paying for it."
Exactly.
So,
but Netflix
man,
wants to stop you, man.
Guys like me, is it too? Well, we can talk about this. I want to know if it's too late if you already have the login.
We'll go into it. We'll get into it.
All right, so let's go ahead. I'm gonna pop that up. Come on, there it is. Put that at the bottom here. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and start recording.
Yeah,
there it is. We are recording. Okay. All right, 3, 2, 1. All right, it's been a couple days now that Texas has had no COVID restrictions, no mask mandates. Other states have followed. Some never had any to begin with. I somehow missed this memo, but some never had a statewide mask mandate. Oklahoma has done away with theirs. It's closing in around me, man. The walls are closing in around Kansas with all these people. And I don't think it's going to happen in Kansas anytime soon, but I'm interested to know, man, what is it like for you in Texas? What have you seen? I mean, have you been going out at all enough to see any difference, I should say?
I'll say this, it's complete chaos, riots in the streets is bad. No, to be honest, I've been actually kind of scared, but also this week has been kind of busy for me, so I haven't really gone out that much. But since most businesses, I think there's a statistic out that said that about 99% of businesses still have a mask mandate to go in. So for the most part, it's about the same. And I would say, sorry, I should specify grocery stores had it to where they still have the mask mandate going on. It's just, other places. I haven't gone to a bar or anything like that. I've actually been a little bit scared of that because I feel that that draws a more lax crowd when it comes to masks and stuff like that. I mean, I remember, what was it, last week? We went somewhere and it already did look a little bit more lax than I would have liked. So
yeah. Oh, sure. Well, and after my experience of going out, I believe it was 2 weeks ago now, that when they relaxed COVID restrictions somewhat in the county, man, we still have a mask mandate. We still have capacity restrictions. No curfew was the main change. But in the bar I was in, which is my favorite bar in Wichita, it's a good place, good people. But man, everybody was hanging out with each other, all crowded. And no masks, obviously, no social distancing. It was like a normal day. And I think that is a concern. And I think that goes along with the issues that we were discussing the other day about sending the wrong message on Texas Independence Day, right?
Mm-hmm.
By setting the state free, dadgummit. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
exactly.
So,
Yeah. It's a little bit of a scary times, you know. And
oh yeah,
I have noticed though is that there's a lot more cars on the road than there were,
that's
say.
interesting.
I mean, uh, and it's something that I guess I wouldn't have noticed, or I wouldn't have. It's not that I wouldn't have noticed, but it would have been more along the lines of, I didn't expect for there to be as many cars on the road as there are, and it really started around when the mask mandate got lifted.
Oh yeah,
Um, so, or not got lifted, but at least was announced.
yeah.
So I feel like a lot more people, just because of the capacity or whatever like that restrictions, I felt like a lot of people decided that they wanted to go out in full force, man.
Well,
Yeah,
it
I
makes me
agree.
wonder. I get that, but I'm also wondering while you're saying this if they are allowing um, people to come back to work. I wonder if a lot of businesses are saying, "Hey, there's no
Mm.
more restrictions, and so hey, you're coming in the office. You're not working remote anymore." You know?
No, I wouldn't be surprised. I really wouldn't. And that makes a lot of sense. Um, I don't know how I feel about that.
Sure.
uh,
I don't know how I feel about it. Right?
because I mean, yeah, I mean, I know my work, right? For instance, they still have a mask mandate. They still have all of their workers working remote. But I guess that's the thing I understand for some businesses that actually kind of require a lot of their employees to be in the office or in wherever the business is. You having them either work remote or whatever like that probably it's more far more advantageous to have them there. Um, so yeah.
Yeah, I bet they're taking advantage of it. I honestly, I see um, a lot of changes in demeanor. I'll even say it for myself. Some changes in demeanor as more people have gotten, again, inoculated, big word, vaccinated, right? I've
Hmm.
seen changes for myself. I've even been a little bit different about it, a little more lax. And I pride myself in actually haven't been really safe this entire pandemic. So, the people who are less concerned about it, I had a guy in the gym today. Um,
Hmm.
cool dude. Name was Anthony, and I was wearing a Hodge Twins, all kinds of gains tank top, right? And
Hmm.
he was like, "Oh man, I mess with that. I mess with that." So he started talking to me, and he shook my hand and everything, and um,
Mm.
dapped me up and whatever. He was a good dude. But he started talking about how he has COVID fatigue and he's just over the whole thing. I get it. Who isn't over this? Um,
Hmm.
as a sidebar, I was looking back through some photos and kind of just some memories from social media in the past year because it's been about a year since COVID restrictions started, just about exactly to the day that we're recording this.
Which
And
is
I never,
crazy
it is
to
crazy. It's
think about
crazy
it.
how fast time has gone by. What I didn't realize at the time was how my happiness was being impacted, right?
Mm.
And I can actually see it as I was going through those memories, as going through those photos, the memories associated with those photos, the trajectory of it. And I was like, wow, this really
Hmm.
has taken a toll on me, and it's taking a toll on everybody. It makes me wonder how many people are out there like that aren't aware fully of how much this is impacting them until it's
Hmm.
gone. You know?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I know my stress level has gone up, 100% since COVID started, really. Um, and sadly, I think I've just gotten used to it.
I know. A little
um,
bit, yeah. It's gonna. I gotta say, like, as soon as I get that second shot, or maybe even just one, from Johnson and Johnson, um, I I'm probably gonna feel like a new person, man. You know,
mhm,
it's gonna be
yeah.
weird. I'm probably gonna feel like a whole new person. So with that said, I get why people are acting the way they are and taking advantage of this. it'd be tough if I lived in Texas and they lifted all those restrictions. It'd be tough for me to not want to take advantage of that, right? And not want
Mm-hmm.
to go out and do all the things a normal person would do. Um, I played a small bar gig last night over at the Artichoke, where I've talked about it on here multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't really have a lot of people to begin with, but they definitely don't really enforce masks. The staff all wear masks because they want to, but if you don't want to, you do you, man. you know,
Wow, that's really
um,
lax.
it is, yeah. Now they do expect you to put it on when you're walking in, and that's because of the county guidelines. They can get fined for it if they're seen
Mm-hmm.
not doing that. But yeah, there's just this whole um, dichotomy of people who want to abide by it, people who don't, and then in between the people who say they do, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they don't follow through with it. Their actions don't follow. Um, is what I'm trying to say. So, uh, anyway, yeah, it's an interesting thing. I can see why people are taking advantage of it. I am excited to know that we are closing in. Um, and but still, I think a lot of this is too much too soon. I think you're putting businesses in a tough position. Basically, the way that this whole discussion was framed uh, has made it political. If you enforce masks and social distancing and all those COVID guidelines in your business, especially in a mostly conservative state like Texas, you could potentially lose a lot of business at a place like that, right?
Yeah, yeah, or even just put your own workers at danger. I remember how hard it was for a lot of businesses in general. Like whenever COVID really started ramping up, and there wasn't a big mandate via the state, and it was just the county or something like that.
Yeah.
How hard businesses really, really had to try to get people, and people would get very belligerent and very aggressive about it, and citing like, oh well, it's not a state law or whatever like that, or it's not law, or it's not a mandate or whatever. I can do what I want and stuff. You're taking away my rights, which is I have always thought was funny when someone says that, is because we're not taking away your rights. If anything, you can be encroaching on someone else's rights because
Yeah.
of you're exposing them to something that that they're trying to keep away from themselves.
That's a really good point.
Um,
I saw this awesome meme the other day that I thought had really good value in sharing. It
mm,
was saying that a mask is stripping away your freedoms um because you can't breathe through it or whatever, is like saying the same thing about a seatbelt because you can't move around the car like you want to, you know
exactly, exactly.
um yeah, that's not government tyranny. I mean, think about that
Mm-mm,
now. Think about that in our political climate now. I think this is a really good point to make, that
mm,
if seatbelts were not mandatory in today's political climate, right? And they weren't mandatory until the late 60s, early 70s, right?
mm-hmm. Somewhere around there, yeah.
It might have been earlier than that. I could be wrong, but regardless, they weren't mandatory for the longest. And if you put that in today's political climate and then mandate seatbelts, could you imagine the backlash the government would get over that? The political like back and forth of seatbelts versus not seatbelts, and I shouldn't be told what to do in my own car, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not far fetched. We're literally doing that about masks. We're
Yeah,
literally doing that
yeah,
about
that's
masks.
true. And the masks are the least like problematic. Like that's the thing. It's um I remember when we first started, right? I remember when we first started having to really wear masks and stuff like that, and it felt weird, but the thing that I've learned very, very quickly is that you put it on and give it about 5 minutes and you forget that it's on there,
Yeah. Oh, for
unless you're
sure.
running around like all day or whatever like that.
Yeah.
Um, but
Especially when it
otherwise,
was
you
cold.
will forget. Yeah, exactly. And plus, that's the thing, right? Like you said, when it's cold, I actually enjoy having my mask on
I
because
do
it keeps
too.
my face warm.
I know. Me too.
Um,
I have to admit that. Yeah,
so yeah, I mean, like, I, I I don't know. I think it's a little bit nonsensical. But I understand where some people are coming from, or at least I can try and see kind of their thought process on some of it.
sure, absolutely, and a little bit yes and no on seeing where people are coming from. But yeah, it's not a hard thing to do. I will say when I walk up the stairs at the gym and I start breathing heavy, then I don't like having a mask on. I will tell
Yeah.
you that, which probably means I need to do more cardio. But yeah, outside of that, man, it's not an issue. It's not what people make it out to be. It's I mean, I've seen people talking about having a mask burning party, right? A mask
Mm-hmm.
burning
Mm-hmm.
party. Come on now, people. So um, look, I think we had a good discussion on this. I think we need to jump into our topics here, but this first one that we're going to talk about is going to make me sound entirely hypocritical based off of what we just said. Um, I'm a little scared to talk about it, I'm not going to lie. But hey, man, it is what it is. So
Mm-hmm.
um,
It's perfect timing too, man.
it really is. Yeah, it's very timely, huh?
Eve, not the eve, but the 1 year anniversary of
Why
COVID.
not? Plus, side note, journalists may fall in the current phase of vaccinations here in Kansas, which means I could get
Oh,
inoculated
hey, there
very
you
soon.
go.
I could, yeah. So this whole thing could be all for naught, you know?
It could be all right behind you, man. Yeah, I know.
Hey,
I
heck,
signed up the other day
really?
to try to get vaccinated. Now, of course, I'm on the waiting list. I got like an email that just said like, "Hey, we saw that you signed up. We'll get to you one day."
Oh man, look at us being good influences, man.
Yeah, man. I know.
So
I know. Hey,
are you
I'm
guys
ready
in
to
the
go.
are you guys in the phase of essential workers that lists IT as one of the essential?
No, but the way that they're doing it currently is there are some cities that are kind of just like, hey, if you want a vaccine or whatever like that, you can come and get it. And
Really?
then there are some cities that are you can sign up at any time. It's just they're going to get you in the order of who is more important or whatever like that, or who is more high risk. I should really say it that way, not who's more important, because
Right,
I
right.
could always go up to them and say like, "Hey, I'm Denison Rice. I I'm part of the I'm a co-host on the Catch Up podcast. I'm very important."
Right, yeah, for sure. I think
um,
that's probably a good move. They would put you right at the front of the line.
yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, hey,
Yeah,
I can show them my picture and everything. They'd
for
know
the
what to
sake
do.
of continuity. Yeah, we gotta keep them up there. Um,
But yeah, no. So I signed up for Dallas County, and I'm just kind of waiting at this point. I know I had a coworker of mine who CVS started to do distribution of like different vaccines and stuff like that. They first were doing just the Johnson and Johnson, but then they opened it up to like Pfizer and Moderna. And she started, or she got in line, essentially the waiting line to be able to try to get the vaccine.
yeah,
And last I heard, she got, you know, she was next in line. So.
nice. Well,
Mhm.
that's sick, dude. Yeah, I'm proud of you. I'm happy for both of us, and hopefully many more like us around the corner, man.
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah, it's a really good thing. It's um, and we'll see how long it takes, but it looks like there's some positives on the horizon. So, with
Mhm.
that said, let's jump into these topics.
Yeah,
Um,
man.
I know we want to talk about the my backstory with coronavirus, but we also want to talk about outlawing do-it-yourself work, your own work on cars in Sacramento.
Mhm.
Obviously, these type of things always tend to happen in California first, um, but then they
Mhm.
spread after that, right? A lot of them
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, they have
Um,
implications on other facets of, or in other states, really.
Absolutely. So we want to talk about it and a lot more. So let's go ahead and jump into it. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was really good. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this is what I was thinking. I meant to bring this up. I'm not even gonna say what's up, everybody. I'm John. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
Because it doesn't make sense. We just had a whole intro. I'm gonna be like, hey, what's up? In case you weren't paying attention before. Right? So
Yeah, no, I get you.
okay, so let's go ahead and do this. 3, 2, 1. I'm John,
And I'm Denison.
and this is the catch up. There we go. I'll put
Hey, I
them right
like it.
together. You guys on the live stream, you won't even know the difference. Yeah.
Exactly.
So, so yeah.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to set it up with a little bit of backstory, but I mean, you're gonna have to kind of follow up with the questions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, man, I got you. I got you.
And I'll let you take control for the DIY story, right?
Yeah, no, I got it, man.
Um, did you hold on? Let me type this out.
Okay.
I don't even know. I can't give the full story because it kind of angers me a little bit. Hopefully, this doesn't get me in trouble. So, all right, let's go ahead and jump into it here. 3, 2, 1. All right, so before we get started, as always, we want to make sure that you are aware of all the ways that you can connect with us, catch up with us, of which there are multiple things to choose from, right? So, we have our Facebook page, which we are currently live streaming on right now. One of the main things that we love about these live streams is when people jump on and comment on what we're talking about in real time, help guide that discussion, help it evolve, and bring a new perspective to it. So we love that. If you haven't given us a like or follow on Facebook, please do. Everything I'm about to mention will be in the description of this episode. But for our Facebook and our Instagram, that's facebook.com or instagram.com/the catch-up cast. We also have our YouTube channel that's becoming more active. If you want to rewatch the live streams and watch any exclusive content that we have, of which there will be a lot coming soon, you're going to want to go ahead and subscribe over there. We appreciate you who already have. That's great. We really, really appreciate that. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And then our official website, can't forget about that, right?
Yeah,
The home
exactly.
for all, yeah, the home for all things Catch a Podcast. Apparently, I can't even sell my own stuff. But it literally is the home. You have all of our episodes, you have all of our videos from our YouTube channel, and you have all of our merch available over on the live stream. And speaking of merch, if you're watching the live stream, I want to plug something real quick. Our friend Devon has a vision for a fashion design brand, I guess you could say. You know, it's more, I would say, design brand. And I am wearing one of them right here, honorary heartbreaker. And let me tell you, it's one of the comfiest shirts I own, man. It's one of the comfiest shirts I own. I'm really happy with it. I love the look. Be honest, man. Would you cop?
I don't know.
Man, now you're gonna have to search the website and find something you would cop right now.
That's true. That is true.
I was gonna cut you a deal, but you're gonna have to pay full price at this point. Disrespect, man.
That's fine, man. It's fine, man. I'm gonna get me some cool stuff. So that's the thing.
Okay.
We already have some great merch anyway. So
We do. And this is a side thing, but it's available on the same website in the drop down menu that you'll see when you go to the official website of the Catch Up Podcast. The important thing with that, if you do want to support the show, we greatly appreciate it. The best way to do that is to check out our merch and our apparel, right? We have mugs, got phone cases, we have t-shirts, hoodies, tank tops. I mean, we got it all, man. All with unique designs that you typically find us wearing when we are doing this live stream. So check that out. That greatly appreciate it. And then leave us a rating and review. You know, tell them why, Dennis, and let them know why we want a rating and a review?
We want a rating and a review. Mainly because one, we get to know how we're doing, right? We wanna know how we're doing, how we can improve, and that rating really helps out. But also the review does as well, and it gives you a chance to voice your opinions on how we're doing, what we can do better, what you didn't like. I mean, that's the thing. We really just, as we've talked about before, we really just want to be able to hear from you guys, and we want to try to make this content better for you guys as well. And that's a big importance. Is that we want to make sure that you guys get the quality content that you deserve, and it also makes us better as well. Um, and we really enjoy that. So that's why you want to do a good rating, a good review in there, so that way we know what's going on. We know what
Agreed.
what you're thinking and what you're feeling, man. That's what we want.
Exactly. Exactly. So that was a great pitch on that. And the last thing is our email, theketchupcast at
Mm,
gmail.com. That's
yes.
theketchupcast at gmail.com. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because the same thing, we want to know what you're thinking, you're feeling, but we also want to know
Exactly.
if you have any stories that you would love to share, that you would love to share with our audience, catch up with us, have a discussion about it, and bring that perspective and those experiences and all of that to our audience. We had that happen a few weeks back with our friend Matt. We're about to have it
Mm-hmm.
with our good friend Aaron Wandra coming up next week. We're going to have him on the live stream. And
Yeah, that's gonna be awesome, man.
yeah, and for the podcast. He is a guy that I worked overnight with for 2 years, over 2 years, 2.5 years. And man, let me tell you, when you work in, I don't know if it's fair to say extreme conditions or not, but out of the ordinary conditions for sure, when you do that with
Mm-hmm.
somebody for that long, man, you get to know them. And I would argue that,
That is true.
especially, yeah, well, and I would argue, especially at that time, I know him better than I knew most anybody else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I'm excited about it. I'm excited
Mm-hmm.
about it. So that's gonna be a fun one to share. But yeah, man. So let's go ahead and jump into these topics here. The first one I want to talk about.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's gonna be kind of tough,
Hey,
but
man, take a
I
deep breath.
had, yeah, deep breath, right? Um, let me, yeah. So I had coronavirus. um, collective gasp in the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I caught coronavirus just about from when this episode comes out, just about 2 months ago. Just about
Mm.
2 months ago. And um I didn't know it. I think I caught it from a family member who really was doing nothing wrong. I've been
Mm-hmm.
taking my precautions. Um, but we had a death of a very close family friend. I believe that is where this came from.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I mean it spread to part of our family, but I was part of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so what was weird about it was I didn't know that I had it. We all got tested as a precaution, all being my parents and myself. Um, and I was there. I felt fine, you know. Um,
Mm-hmm.
had the nasal swab, and so then my throat started feeling a little scratchy. My nose was a little runny. But I thought, well, that's just because they jammed a Q-tip all the way up to my brain, right?
Yeah, man.
And we have the good fortune of Wichita State, which I've said many times being the best decision I've ever made. Um, we have had the good fortune of that um, being available to our community, and they have put together this molecular diagnostic lab that can get you your test results in as little as 24 hours.
Wow,
You
that's
know,
awesome, man. So it's
yeah,
like super
yeah.
rapid testing, man.
It's rapid test without having to pay for a rapid test, and it's way more reliable. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and that was the thing is I got my test results back in just about 12 hours. Yeah, just about
Wow.
12 hours. I looked, I was like, okay, I'm about to go to bed. Let me look at this real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I had COVID. COVID positive. No idea. Had no idea. And
So
yeah.
Or
Go
go
ahead.
ahead. No, I was just gonna ask, like, so, like, what rushed through your mind right then and there? Was it similar to how we thought was it's probably I don't know been 3 months back when we talked about when we had our near COVID experiences. Um, was it similar to that? But I
Yeah,
guess more real.
yeah, yeah. Because after that near COVID experience with my good friend Blake Loggins, I thought, yeah, I'm not worried about it. I didn't catch it in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd have to take a heck of a lot for me to get it. Well, it's so situational. Um, there was a bit of panic involved. I'm not gonna lie to you. There was a bit of panic involved because
Mm.
I thought, man, it's hard to predict. Now I'm a healthy guy and I work out all the time and take care of myself, but it's just so impossible to predict what's going to happen to you with this virus. It's just crazy. Um, Thankfully, those of us in my family that had it, it was basically a head cold, is what it ended up
Okay.
being.
Okay.
Um, a powerful head cold, but nonetheless a head cold.
Okay, so you
Um,
didn't get the smack in the face like a lot of people say with who got COVID. They just, 1 minute they were fine, and then the next minute they just bam got hit by a truck, and then they're out for 2 weeks or whatever.
I did have the Bam got hit by a truck thing, but it was after a night
Mm-hmm.
of going hard, which is
Okay.
actually one of the things that kind of bothers me, man. I'm not gonna lie to you. Um,
Mm.
yeah, I don't know.
Mm.
Uh,
Was it more along the lines of like who you could have exposed? Is kind of
yeah,
what got you?
yes and no. So here's the situation with this. I it was like 3 days before my birthday that I tested positive with COVID, right? And I had this
Mm-hmm.
surprise birthday party set up for me. Um, and was more or less, I'm very ashamed of this. This is a huge admission for me, especially on a podcast. Um, but I was more or less coerced into having that birthday party,
Mm-hmm.
even though I had COVID, um,
Mm.
knowingly. And
Mm.
the person that threw it for me, 95% had it too. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
By the grace of God, everyone that was there was all had already had it, so they were COVID immune at that moment,
Mm-hmm.
or just didn't get it. I cannot explain that. I cannot explain that. You know,
Were there
um,
masks worn?
no, no.
Oh.
And this was in our little studio recording space that we have, so it was like a live gig that we did in there.
Mm.
And I just cannot explain, man. There were a couple people. I guess a couple people wore masks. Yeah, now that I think about it, but there was one person, a good close friend of mine. I was very worried about his health.
Mm.
If he were to get it. And he didn't. Like I said, no one got it, which is incredible.
Yeah, that's really good, man. That's really,
Yeah,
really good.
yeah. So that bothered me. And then that next day, I felt like I was hit by a frying pan. you know,
Okay. Did you, I guess, did you have to have like a call almost and be like, hey man, like you need to get tested? Did you kind of do that after your party a little bit and say like, hey, you should probably get tested, blah blah
I
blah, or was it more along the lines of just like it's under the table?
um. Well,
I know I'm hitting you with the hard questions, man.
yeah. Um. I don't know. I kind of I told a few people
Mm-hmm.
that you may want to be concerned, or just in case. I don't think I really admitted it to anybody, and that was just because I was so ashamed.
Mm.
I was so ashamed, and this kind of, I mean, I don't want to tie it too much back to our relationship discussion from a couple weeks ago, but it just, I felt like I wasn't in a place where I was thinking for myself, right? So I felt really embarrassed by
Mhm.
that. Um, so I told a few people and then just kind of prayed for the others, you
Okay.
know. But what was probably worse than that, my guy, is that I kept going to work. Um, I
Mm.
I went to work the entire time, and it wasn't. I mean, I honestly didn't even really question it.
Okay.
um,
Did you feel pressured to go into work? Was it kind of like technically your work would let you to stay home or whatever like that, but they but it's kind of a frowned upon thing. Was it that? Did you feel like your work would kind of um treat you a certain way or whatever like that? Because I
you
know there are
know,
some people who kind of feel that and they're essentially they feel almost threatened to go into work or to stay home, because I know that was like a big thing during the very beginning of the pandemic where they're like, hey, if you got symptoms, just stay home. But people would still go into work and spread amongst their coworkers because they would feel guilty for not going into work or calling out sick or whatever like that.
right? Well, yeah, I my thing with it is this. Because of the same reason, and this is a long story that I'm just not even going to worry about diving into the details for, but same similar reason as to why we had the birthday party was
Hmm.
why I kept going to work. Um, Fill in the blanks however you may. But there was a kind of a thing where I was like, if I do this, um, and say I have COVID, then I'm impacting dozens of people because as a producer, I'm talking with reporters and other producers and the assignment desk. I'm basically talking to everybody, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the whole half the staff could be out. Um, Now, here's an interesting thing, and I want to inject as a side note. One of our reporters for sure had COVID. She was out a couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
had COVID, put me down on the possible exposure list. And guess what? No one ever informed me. No one ever
Hmm.
told me. I have this
Interesting.
conspiracy about the value of each person's position impacting whether they're informed about possible exposure or not. Um, but I myself was never told where others were due to that same person, I should say.
Hmm.
So, um, yeah, yeah. Anyway,
That's interesting. Do you
it
know
is interesting.
why? Did you ever get like any explanation, or did you ever get like a chance to um really like bring that up or anything?
No, because I'm not. I don't think I'm supposed to know that. It's this weird HIPAA violation with COVID, man. You know,
Mm. Mm-hmm.
it's a weird thing where technically, even though it's very clear that this person is out for 2 weeks and you're having to cover for their job, and other people are quarantined, and everyone knows who has it, they cannot say this person has COVID. You know,
Okay. No, I
they
mean,
can't.
I guess it makes sense because yeah, HIPAA, you can't disclose someone's health conditions or anything like that.
Right.
Um, which yeah, it's a gray area, right? Because it's like you should technically do it because you're trying to do tracing, right? And you need to make sure that the safety of your employees is a high priority there.
Absolutely. But the other thing was strictly
So yeah.
the well, another concern I had was work. It was work. It was truly um we have not done a good job of getting things in place um
Hmm.
for an inevitable or potential, I guess at this point, since things are starting to wind down, mass exposure of COVID, right?
Hmm.
Um, it's very, for lack of a better phrase, janky how we have the setup for producers, who quite honestly, it's pretty borderline next to impossible to be able to work from home and do the entire job start to finish. And so I knew I didn't feel bad enough that I was bedridden at all.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt bad like that. Thank God too. But uh, I didn't have that issue. And I just knew that so I was going to be working, right? And having that pressure of trying to do the whole job, a whole 6 p.m. newscast, our top rated newscast at this station from home while dealing with COVID. I will tell you, it's funny to say, it's a funny punchline, but COVID brain, it's a real thing, man.
Mm-hmm.
It's a real thing. And I had it for a couple of weeks. Just the lethargy, and I mean, the fatigue lasted, I would say, probably a month. You know what? Actually, the last time I was down in Texas when we did an in-person catch up, I slept
Mm-hmm.
on your couch, right?
Mm-hmm.
I slept there for I think every day I slept like 9 or 10 hours, maybe even 11
Wow.
some days. And that's not normal for me, especially on a couch. Especially on a couch. And so I think that had to do with some COVID fatigue, some lingering COVID fatigue.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so my there were a couple of factors. I didn't just want to upend the entire news station. I didn't want the stress of the stress of being in the office was going to be much less than the stress of working from home, and that lower stress level would, I feel like, help me heal quicker, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you know what, and getting out and being moving, right, rather than just sitting here where I'm doing this live stream right now, the entire time, I knew that, as with any illness, like, that was better for me.
Mm-hmm.
So, all of that to say, yes, I still potentially expose other people to COVID, but I will say this: I did my best. I sanitized my hands every single chance I could. Even when I would open our office fridge, I grabbed a paper towel to open the door and shut it.
Mm.
Um, I
Wore a
cleaned,
mask all the time.
wore the mask all the time. I cleaned every surface that was touched beyond my own.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, quite honestly, it was so thorough that people probably assumed I had COVID. you know? So I'm proud of that, and I did that without getting anybody else infected. Um,
Mm.
and what so there's two kind of funny stories about it. One is, there's another coworker of mine. He sits right behind me, and there was a bunch of days, man, where he was just clearing his throat a lot, sniffling. And when I had the exact same things that he did. And I was like, this man had COVID. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I remember when he had it, because he sat right behind me. I was kind of nervous about that. I turned around to him. I was like, hey, man, do you think you have COVID? And he's sitting there with his mask on at his own desk. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, nah, man. He's like, I'll get tested if they need me to, but I'm good. It's like, okay. And then now he says, no, I might have had COVID. Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
No, that means he did. But the other one is man, I'm blanking on it. What was I gonna say? Um oh yeah, we were having a virtual editorial meeting. I'm running through my rundown, and I had to clear my throat so much. It sounded like a breach at the Hoover Dam. Like it was like, I was like, oh, sorry, I can't clear it. And I was like, like that. And I was like, oh my, like, if they don't assume I have COVID now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then they never will. Um, but I don't know if they did. They just like, well, we're gonna power through or whatever. It was so weird. The culture with all that was so strange, and so it never really was an issue with that. And I kept everybody else from getting it. And I just minded my P's and Q's for about 2 weeks. And the health department called me, and they made sure that I was doing the right thing. Now, they were a little bit different than CDC guidelines. They were like,
Mm-hmm.
you have to be without symptoms. So you can stop quarantine after 10 days, but you have to be without symptoms for 3 days before you can go out.
Mm.
I didn't agree with that, because you can argue all sorts of things for COVID symptoms. I lost my sense of smell for about 3 weeks. Am I supposed to quarantine all that time? Right? You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? Just because I don't have a sense of smell. So I didn't fully agree with that. But anyway, that was kind of
Well,
the story with that.
okay. Well, what I was going to ask though, kind of going on the symptoms guidelines type deal. Did you? So we already know that you lost your sense of smell, right? Did you get any of the other bigger? I mean, I guess you said you did have like COVID brain, right? More like brain fog or whatever.
Right.
But did you get any of the other, like, I guess, notorious symptoms or whatever like that?
Well, what would you classify as notorious? B.I.G.
I mean, let's see. I mean, of course, there's the loss of smell or taste, smell, taste. Let's see. There was head fog. Did you get a lot of headaches? Because I know that's also kind of I've heard that's kind of a lot of symptoms or whatever like that. A lot of people get that kind of symptoms.
I did. It was a little bit of sinus pressure, and then I kind of I think they're stress headaches. I get those kind of frequently with my job, to be quite honest. So um, I didn't really think too much of that. But yes, I had a loss of taste, uh, only a little bit. Thank God. This was actually really weird. The sides of my tongue and my cheeks, where your taste buds are on your cheeks, um, were just fine. The middle strip of my tongue, I couldn't taste anything. It was weird.
Huh,
Um,
that is strange.
I haven't really talked about this, but I've been taking CBD for a while,
Mm,
and if you have the unflavored version, which I just do because it's more natural, I don't know. It's not really a huge big difference, but that's just what I've been doing. And
mm-hmm.
I mean, it tastes like a plant. It really does. So you
Tastes like
notice it.
you got some grass on you.
Yeah, well, some dirt and some soil, yeah, all that. Um, and so it I couldn't taste it. That was the really interesting thing about it is I could not taste that. Um, so it was weird, man. That was weird. I could
Mm,
not taste the CBD. I had Ziggy's Pizza. Anybody in Wichita knows what's up with Ziggy's Pizza. I had Ziggy's on my birthday, and it was good, but it was like this is okay. And that was when
mm-hmm.
I really thought, well, I've lost some of my taste. I just hope I wasn't losing all of it because I'm a foodie, man. I gotta have my food. So the sense of smell was wild. I didn't actually notice I had lost my sense of smell
Mm-hmm.
until I took some hand sanitizer, and this hand sanitizer is the most potent thing I have. It is so gross, dude. It's it smells like tequila. It smells like cheap tequila.
Wow.
I put it up next to my hand and I smelled it and I didn't smell anything. I go, well, that's not good. And my nose, it felt like a flame shoot up my nose
So you could feel the
because
pain, but you couldn't actually smell the extra smell.
right, exactly. It was crazy. So
Man.
headache, sinus pressure, stuffy nose, a lot of phlegm, which is
Mm-hmm.
gross. Loss of
Did you have
smell.
shortness of breathing?
No, I never did. And we even bought
Okay.
a oxygen monitor, an O2 monitor. I never lost any oxygen levels. Um,
Okay. That's good.
yeah, so I really had, I mean, I was borderline asymptomatic, to be honest, because if someone in my family hadn't have had it, I probably would have just thought I had a cold the whole time. Seriously.
Mm,
If it weren't for the
interesting.
loss of taste and smell, by that point I probably would have gotten tested. But without that, I would have thought I just had a cold. Seriously.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
A bad one, but still.
Yeah.
It
Exactly.
it wasn't like it, and we've talked about this. I actually feel like I had it before, and I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I still do kind of think this that I was down in Texas in October of 2019 to go see my favorite band, Alter Bridge, and you came with me. It was a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Did a meet and greet where I literally met them and somehow didn't spread this to them. But I just remember I felt this way. Another person in the office felt this way. Just could not stop coughing. I went to the doctor's office. they couldn't figure out what it was. They tested me for pneumonia and these other things, and I didn't catch it, or they didn't know what it was, I should say, and so they just gave me a prescription that I honestly kind of felt like made it worse than better. And we went to this concert. I know you remember this. There were so many people at that concert that were just coughing and sneezing the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You remember that?
Yeah, no, it was gross.
Yeah. And there was this woman next to me that had the exact same thing I had going on. She was like, "Yeah, I just got a bag full of cough drops," and so she gave them to me. It gave me
Oh
some cough
yeah, I
drops.
remember that. Yeah, she was ready to go.
Yeah, she was like,
She
"Yeah, I've
hooked
had
you
the
up, man.
exact same." She goes, "I had the exact same thing. My friend here just got over it herself, and everyone was going through that." I'm like, "Man, was this COVID 18? Something like this."
Mhm.
I don't know, but anyway, that was worse. That one was worse because I could not stop coughing for over 2 weeks.
Mm.
Uh, that was a pain in the ass. So this, yeah, I don't want to do it again, but I actually kind of had this crazy like Austin Powers evil villain worldview on that time, because I was like, man, if this is all COVID is, I almost want to give it to my friends so they could be immune for a while. you know,
Wow, man.
Uh, no,
That that's
no, no. Look, listen. I'm not being serious with that. I'm just saying that to make a point that
no,
that
I
is
get
how uh that is how minor it was. So I was very fortunate in this case.
you. Mhm.
Obviously, I know several people who've had it worse, and actually, the owner of the bar I just performed at last night, he wasn't there because his mom died from COVID that day.
Oh,
Um,
man.
yeah, so it's serious. It's nothing to joke around about, and that's why I said at the beginning of the earlier discussion, I'm going to sound like such a hypocrite for saying this stuff.
Mhm.
Um, but I 100% lie with um, what I have been saying on this podcast and what we said at the beginning of this episode. And it is important to quarantine and do your thing to help others and help keep others healthy. And I just genuinely believe that the way my job is laid out, I was able to do that very well without spreading it to other people. But
Mhm.
that's not the case for most people. You know what I mean? So,
Mhm.
um, uh, moral of the story is do as I say, not as I did. I'm not proud of that
Mhm.
at all. I'm not proud of that at all. And that's actually why I was okay with talking about it, is giving you kind of an example of why I did it, but also the amount of stress that came with it, knowing and the regret too, but just being thankful to God that no one got it around us, right? So
Mhm.
um, definitely, if you just continue to mind your P's and Q's, you're almost to the vaccine. You won't have to worry about it. We're almost there, man. I keep saying it.
Exactly.
We're almost there.
Exactly.
So
The light is at the end of the tunnel, man.
yeah, it really is. So look, let's jump into this next topic. Um, lay it out for us. This is about DIY projects. Even if I'm not mistaken, even simple oil changes, right?
No. So,
Okay.
I was actually
But they're
reading,
outlawed in Sacramento, is what I'm trying to say. These
yeah,
DIY car projects are.
this is all in Sacramento. It's simple stuff essentially. Is Let me find the specific stuff. So, what has been outlawed is considered major adjustments or major repairs or whatever like that. Major repairs and minor repairs or whatever like that. So in the law's definition, it's minor adjustments, service, repairs some automobiles, other passenger vehicles, include but not limited to radiator, transmission, muffler, brake repair, lube shops, diagnostic and tunic smog inspections, auto glass repair, auto or installation, automotive seat covers and reupholstery, tire sales. Essentially, all of this stuff is All of this stuff is stuff that the new code um, says is minor repairs. Your major
Okay.
repairs are the stuff that's going to, cause your car or your vehicle to be indisposed for like more than 24 hours or
Okay.
24 hours or so. So, but it doesn't include oil changes, tune-ups and tire changes. So really, really small stuff and brake changes.
Okay.
Really small stuff, it's okay, but big stuff, it outlaws. Essentially, what I kind of botched it a little bit, but because they were talking more about like the people or the businesses or whatever like that,
Sure.
that are not going to be affected by it. Um, but essentially, they're making it so that um, automotive enthusiasts who like to modify their cars and stuff like that are prohibited from doing that. And really prohibited from touching their cars for the most part. Uh, I mean, California already has really restrict laws on what modifications you can do to your car in general. Like I think if I'm not mistaken, you can't do like turbos. You can't have any car exhaust changes or anything like that or
Really?
modifications. It's the list is very extensive, and so this just goes even more, gets even more extensive on there, and you'll get a citation um, and a fine of I can't let me see. I don't think they list, but they do say that there is a you'll get a fine for a decent amount if you are caught with any of these modifications, or if you're caught doing any of these modifications or changes or whatever like that,
So,
which
uh,
is no
it's
bueno.
interesting. No, and I get why they do it. Look, California is a state where they literally force companies to, for example, hide cell towers, um, disguising them as trees, right? To not
Hmm.
mess up the overall scenic view. Although a fake tree that's actually a cell tower would probably still be recognizable, depending on
Hmm.
how well it's done. If it looks like a Minecraft tree, I'd probably notice that. Um, but I just overall, um, I know that California has high standards when it comes to not messing up the environment, not damaging or polluting too much. Um, but yet, I know that there are people still with custom exhausts on cars. So how do
Yep.
they get away with that?
Um, it's it's the same how a lot of vehicle, or I should really say how a lot of other enthusiasts will get away with stuff that they're not supposed to. A lot of it is up to the officers, because the officers do have to be the one to um, really focus on this or whatever like that. Or I shouldn't say focus, but they're the ones who have to enforce it, and so it can be an officer by officer basis. Um, but there's also what this can do is, though, prevent you from having your car registered. Similar to how I know in Texas we have, you have to get your vehicle inspection, right? And it needs to pass inspection because it needs to end some of our restrictions and requirements and stuff like that. So you can't get, if you don't pass, then you don't get your registration. And then at that point, you can get a ticket. It's very similar to that. I think it'll be interesting. They were actually they also explained that some of this new code and law is also vague enough to cause other issues. For instance, they actually use a good example is so regular disc brake changes are fine. Like you can change you can do disc brakes perfectly fine. But if you were doing something like, since they didn't include in the um, code of stuff that's included that's saying that this is okay to use, or this is okay to do, since they didn't include drum brakes, that could be a gray area to where they could, depending on the person enforcing, could essentially say, hey, you're changing, the drum brakes on your Camaro, or, on your classic car or whatever like that. You're going to get fined because the new law says that you can't do that.
Well, so it sounds like there are a lot of loopholes still in this
Mm-hmm.
new ordinance. I guess it would be more so.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, that kind of leaves a lot to be desired. It raises some concerns, to be quite honest.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I
because
know
of
Hawaii has some restrictions similar to that. Sorry.
no, you're right. They do, and it's again, it's kind of funny because we go back to the mask thing of like stealing your freedoms and all that stuff, but yet you have all these other
Mm-hmm.
things. I know it's a state that typically has more restrictions like that, like California, um, but still, it's the masks are just the tip of the iceberg with this kind of stuff. Um, yeah. So as far as this goes, how do you feel about this? To me, I don't really know what difference as far as an impact on the environment, um, or damaging the scenery, right? Something like that. I don't really know what impact that could have more so on big projects. Like I'm picturing an engine swap, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you're swapping an engine in a car, I don't understand how that could have more of an impact than by taking it to the shop. If you want to be really theoretical about it, I mean, stuff to drive to the shop and back, so that's a trip that you wouldn't normally take, right? Um, I don't know. Is it more so that they feel like they can regulate the practices and procedures of these mechanic shops more? If so, what are they regulating in a case like that, right?
Yeah, well, no, I think that's exactly it. It's more regulations on the shops themselves. Um, so that way someone can't just go in there and say, "Hey, I want to do an engine swap," right? I think the big thing that they're trying to go on is, your vehicle was designed specifically by the manufacturer to meet certain requirements when it comes to environmental concerns and all that other good stuff, right?
Yeah,
And so if you are modifying that, you are taking it out of the specifications, the specific set specifications that the manufacturer had to do essentially to comply with environmental guidelines, right? Um, and I think that's kind of where they're trying to go for is um, keeping those your cars as close as possible to the recommended guidelines because they understand how the smog or how the carbon footprint that your modifications could have on the vehicle. So, like, for instance, like an exhaust swap, right?
yeah,
Or an engine swap. A
right.
more high-powered motor with new exhaust and all of the good stuff like that could be not meeting the same requirements as your vehicle previously had, right?
Yeah. Well, I get that. It's kind of like how in Texas, right? They make you get those kind of those smog tests, I should say, right?
Hmm.
Um, what's interesting about that, worth pointing out, is that if your car is considered an antique, which is any car 25 years or older, so for my example, at my original truck, my Ford Ranger, my '96 Ford Ranger,
Hmm.
would now be considered an antique, and I would never have to get a test again, which seems completely counterintuitive to the whole point of this, right?
Yeah.
Um, but how do you, so this is again far from an anomaly, but how do you feel about this government oversight? It's a state or more of a local oversight. Um, do you think it's a positive thing, or do you think it's barking up the wrong tree? To be quite honest,
uh, I don't know, man.
the cell tower tree, to be specific.
I have mixed feelings, man, because as a car enthusiast, I feel I should be able to modify my car however I want, because I bought the car If I want to make it faster or whatever, I want to be able to do that and not be hindered by the law or say or be told that by modifying my car I'm say voiding the warranty or breaking a law or something.
Sure.
But at the same time, I do understand the need for us to be really, really vigilant on uh, the environmental impacts that modifications to your car could have, right? Um, because we've talked about this multiple times about how emissions are and it's not just vehicle emissions. I want to make sure that this is very clear, but um, carbon emissions that we're putting out into our atmosphere are already way above where we want it to be, and we're already on track to be past the best case scenario of bad climate disasters and stuff like that. And now we're pretty much at a point to where we need to do everything that we can to restrict this stuff. So, like I said, I can understand it. It's a really hard thing for me to say. Um, it's really hard for me to like really agree with it and say like, hey, it's fine, or you're doing the right thing by restricting these things so
Sure.
much.
I get that. Yeah, I understand that. It is I think the thing for us with our love for cars and you know, just auto stuff in general is it's kind of an escape from the day to day. Even when we did this Turo rental car challenge, which that video will be coming out soon, but that
Hmm.
was an escape to be able to drive cars that weren't ours and they were really, they were nice, they were cool, and they had their own unique things about them. But to be able to do that was an escape, and um, to many people, me to an extent, but absolutely, my brother is a great example of this. Working on them is an escape, right? It's
Hmm.
almost like woodworking or welding or anything like that. You're building your own piece by working on these cars, and
Yeah.
it's really cool to have the opportunity to do that. So I think you are taking away something, especially from a car crazy culture of Southern California, right? When you strip that, um, so that's something to think about there. Overall, I agree with you, and I can see where they're coming from with this because California has always been very proactive with COVID, or I'm sorry, not COVID, but climate change. They have, and so I would be willing to bet big money that you are correct as to why they are doing this as they are. But I would have to agree with you. I don't know. This almost feels like to me something that should have been one of the last steps, right?
Hmm.
One of the
Yeah.
last.
No, I feel
Don't
that.
get me wrong. There are already several big steps in place. So a lot of cars, and I don't think they even so much have to do this anymore because I think it's more of a federal standard. But when we were growing up, there are a lot of, especially sports cars, that had California editions because they had to have different emission
Yep.
standards versus the rest of the country. That's not really so much true anymore. I think, I think the EPA has made that a federal standard for all. But again, that's an example of how California can influence the entire country, right?
True. Very,
Um,
very true.
but yeah, it just seems to me electric cars are going to be more and more prominent. And General Motors, the world's biggest car manufacturer, right, says
Hmm.
that they will have um, all their entire lineup all electric by 2035. To
Yep.
me, by around that time would be when you would want to make a decision like this to say, hey, no DIY big projects because electric cars do not take near the amount of maintenance that internal combustion vehicles do, right?
Hmm.
They just don't. It's a
Well,
drivetrain and a battery, and you know what
yeah.
I mean?
No. Yeah, no, I think you're completely correct. But I think what they're probably trying to get at is, yes, GM and a lot of other manufacturers are trying to go. They're using, like, 2030, 2035, like you said, to have their whole fleet as being all electric. But the problem is that those are for new cars. Um, Without restrictions or proper restrictions for current gasoline cars, um, you don't. You're if anything, you're barking up the wrong tree at that point, right? You can get your manufacturers on. You can get your manufacturers on the same page, but if you have everybody still going towards gasoline cars, yeah, you can't buy a new Chevy Cruze, right?
Right.
You can't buy a new Chevy EV Cruze because it's electric and you don't want electric cars, but you can go and buy you an EV, or not an EV, but an old gasoline Cruze, and you're perfectly fine. I mean,
Yeah.
but I know that other states are also doing, like, for instance, California, right? They have a law in place that they want to outlaw gasoline vehicles,
Yeah.
um, by 2030 or 35.
Oh, okay. So that falls right in line with General Motors'
Hmm.
goal there, huh?
Exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, I bet the federal government will follow that very soon too. Um, man, it's interesting. It's very what I love about these discussions. What I love about these topics that we do is that it starts off as something that seems really inconsequential and very small. You know what I mean? But in fact, it is tied to a bigger overall discussion and could, in and of itself, have bigger implications because of that.
Exactly.
Um, so it's something to keep your eye on. And it's interesting to me that it started in Sacramento. I would have pictured somewhere like San Francisco, to be honest.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's where a lot of that stuff
Or
has been.
even
But
LA.
even
Mhm.
LA, yeah, I know. I'm not the capital of California, which, yeah, it just I don't know. It's interesting to me, but maybe that is why it started there. So anyway,
Mhm.
I feel like we had a good discussion on all this, man. We
I
touched on
feel
a
like
lot of
it.
good stuff. Yeah, it's really good stuff. Thank you guys for tuning in on the live stream. Thank you guys for obviously listening to the episode. Just a couple quick reminders. Please leave us a rating review. Let us know your thoughts on this episode. Let us know your thoughts on any of the topics, and give us a rating and let us know how we're doing. It'll help us grow and continue to grow and be seen by more potential listeners. Um,
Mhm.
and then check out our website. It's linked in the description of this episode. It's also under the support the show tab. Um, and you can check that out and look at all of our merch and apparel that we have available. But it's also your home for all things podcast, videos, and everything in between. So
Mhm.
please check all that out. But man, it's Friday night. So we're going to bounce out of here and have ourselves a good old time, right?
Yeah, man.
Um, but next week will be an awesome discussion with my friend Aaron Wandra. And a couple weeks following that's another in-person catch-up. So we got a lot to look forward to here. Be sure to subscribe. Like I said, leave a rating review. Thank you so much for catching up with us. We'll catch up with you next week. Yeah. All
All
right.
right.
Live stream people.
Mhm.
Um,
There we go.
uh, yeah. So we
Uh,
did good things here.
no, no. I think that we really did have a great discussion. I think there's a lot really for us to, I feel like all the subjects that we talked about are going to have the continuous uh, thing, going on and stuff like that. Or I should say, it's going to be an ongoing conversation, really. And of course, like always, we want to continue to hear from you guys. And kind of understand a little bit of what you guys are feeling about the stuff that we talked about. You know, even if you don't Also, when this goes live on our YouTube channel, you can go ahead and leave a comment there. So that way we can really get a good idea of um, what you guys are feeling, what you want, or what you want to know about, or even your thoughts on the stuff that we talked about
Oh yeah,
on this episode.
for sure. Yeah.
That's another way to reach out to us.
It is. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great reminder there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. A funny story for the live stream people. You're not getting any music exclusives on here, dang it.
No, 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 no.
I always knew this was a thing, but I was honestly blown away by how perceptive this algorithm clearly is. You remember a couple of weeks ago, I was sharing this beat that I had made that was similar to the song "Jaded" by Drake,
Mm-hmm.
and I compared it to the original, and I played it on my phone, right, in front of the mic, like so, and only played about 20 seconds of it, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
and this algorithm caught it, and we got a copyright claim.
Mm-hmm.
We uploaded it on YouTube, we got a copyright claim. So, man, it's crazy. You can't escape it. It's wild. I mean, I get why they would do it, but we're not making any money off this yet, so neither are they.
Exactly. Exactly.
Um,
But I mean, hey, that's why we took it down, or they took it down.
yeah,
And I'm trying to get it. It should be fixed now.
yeah,
But I've been editing, or actually, the cool thing is YouTube actually has an editing tool that'll do it for you. Because it gives you because whenever the claim starts, they have to put in the timestamps of where it is, where when it's happening and stuff like that. And so
yeah,
um, there's a process that can just auto cut the either cut the audio track over it, or even just cut the clip out entirely.
yeah, which is really cool.
Yeah,
It
it's
makes
really,
it
really cool.
super simple to edit, and especially when we're sharing these over on our YouTube page.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it makes it really easy for us to kind of put things down where they need to go.
Exactly.
So, yeah, man. It's good stuff. Another reason to follow our YouTube page,
Mm-hmm.
check it all out. But yeah, it's really good stuff. So I think we bounce out of here, man. I think this has been a good Friday night catch up.
Mm-hmm. I think so too.
I enjoy, yeah, I enjoy it as always. So, um, thank you guys so much for catching up with us, and we'll catch up with you next week.